he says, bad move, throwing down a cage fight to God, then what God will be able to deliver you. And Shadrach and Meshach reply, hey, we're not going to defend ourselves in this matter. Say, look, our minds are made up. You bring it on. Whatever, bring your worst. Get the fire hot because we're ready. I mean, we've decided before we even got here that we're not going to back down. We're going with God on this one. Did you know that heart? I mean, that's an awesome heart, isn't it? So that's the heart we've got to have if we want to make an impact. These guys made a tremendous impact because they decided beforehand, we're not going to bow down.
Yeah.
I mean, you can threaten us. You can do whatever you can. Bring your worst. We're going to be faithful to God. Yeah. I love it.
Amen.
And actually, what Nebuchadnezzar's doing here, he's saying, hey, then what God will be able to save you? It's not really a question. He's not really saying, hey, what God's going to... He didn't really want an answer. He's asking a rhetorical question. It's kind of like when you ask your kids, you want a spanking? Do you want a spanking? It's a rhetorical question, right? So he doesn't really want an answer because he doesn't think there's an answer. But these Hebrew kids, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they stand up and they give him an answer. What God will be able to rescue you from me? And again, he gets God's attention, and basically that God is he's right there, ready to rumble, and basically saying, "You want some of this? Come on, let's go mano y mano. Let's step off here."
All right.
And I think what Nebuchadnezzar is doing here with these Hebrew boys is he's indicting them. He's indicting them, and he's the rule, he's the law of the land, and he's saying, you failed to worship my gods, and you failed to bow down to my idols. And let me tell you, and we all know these are truisms. The world doesn't mind if you worship Jesus, as long as you worship everything else. Hey, give your token time to Jesus on Sunday morning. Show up, we don't care. But when you're at work, don't talk about Jesus, don't share your faith, don't do anything that makes other people uncomfortable. The world doesn't mind if you go to church on Sunday morning and bow down, as long as you're bowing down to the gods of passion and popularity all the rest of the time. And the world doesn't mind if you bow down to Jesus on a regular basis, as long as you don't draw a line in the sand and say, Jesus is the only way you get to heaven. Because they want you to embrace Buddha and Muhammad and all the other gods that are out there. And if you're not embracing those gods, then you're narrow-minded, you're stupid, you're not a team player, you're totally against the idea of ecumenicalism, which is, hey, let's all just get together and let's all just kind of have fun and show up in heaven. We'll meet together in heaven someday. And Jesus is your way, Buddha's my way. We'll meet there. But obviously, the Bible is very clear that that's not what God has stated, and he's on record as saying, and think about it reasonably. If there was some other way for us to get to heaven, if you could get to heaven through Buddha or through Muhammad, then wouldn't it be cruel for God to send his son to die on a cross? I mean, if it just takes some good works, if you kind of can balance, if there's an option, if there's any other way to get to heaven other than Jesus Christ, then Jehovah God is a cruel and ruthless God who murdered his son for no real reason, because there's another way. But if Jesus did really die on a cross, and he really shed his blood so our sins could be forgiven, then there's no other way. It's an impossibility. God's not going to go through all that just to say, hey, well, here's one of the options. You can take this option or that option. My son died for this option, but hey, take this option over here. It doesn't work like that, right? So again, the world will accept you, and the world will embrace you if you sing their songs and buy their products and just embrace everything that they're embracing. But when you take a little stand, when you stand up when everybody else is bowing down, then the heat comes. Then the challenge comes down. And so Nebuchadnezzar is challenging them, and he's indicting them. And again, for us, the indictments look like this. The world wants to indict us for our faith. The charge. Do you believe that God created the heavens and the earth and everything in them? Yeah. Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The charge. Do you believe that Jesus Christ is really the Son of God?
Guilty. Yeah.
Are you sure you're guilty? A little louder now, come on. Do you believe Jesus Christ healed the sick and raised the dead?
Guilty.
Thank you. Do you believe Jesus Christ was beaten and crucified on Calvary?
Guilty.
Do you believe Jesus Christ was raised from the dead on the third day?
Guilty.
Do you believe Jesus' death, resurrection, provides forgiveness and salvation for you.
Guilty.
Amen. Convict you of being guilty of being a Christian. But here's the last one. Do you believe that God is able to rescue?
Guilty.
Amen. And here this morning, God is on record as being able to rescue.
Yes.
And Nebuchadnezzar challenges him to this cage fight, and these guys respond with great confidence and great boldness. He's asking what God is able. And they respond, that will be our God.
Yeah.
It's a rhetorical question, but that will be our God. And our faith is non-negotiable. Our faith is in the living God, and we cannot back off from that. And even when we're feeling threatened, when we're feeling that, oh man, I'm not going to fit in here, that's okay, because our God is still able. And I want to get a little more audience participation here. You did well on that one. Very good. But if God has rescued you, and I'm going to give you some examples. If God has rescued you, I want you to stand and keep standing. If God has healed you from a sickness or disease, stand up and keep standing. If God has healed you from a sickness or disease. If God has healed you from a broken marriage. If God has healed you from a broken marriage. I think you guys might have had one at one time. All right, remain standing. If God has removed overwhelming guilt in your life. If God has ever removed overwhelming guilt in your life. If God has ever provided for you when you were laid off. If God has ever comforted you when you were grieving. Remain standing. And what that says is our God is able, right? Our God is able to rescue. Our God is able to save. And stay standing. I want to play Nebuchadnezzar here for a second. And I want you to respond with our God is able like you believe it, okay? Okay? What God is able to soften the hardest hearts?
Our God is able.
Amen. What God is able to give purpose to a confused life?
Our God is able.
What God is able to give peace in an angry home?
Our God is able.
What God is able to forgive the darkest sins?
Our God is able.
What God is able to change the hearts of your friends and family?
Our God is able.
And what God is able to provide self-control in your finances? And we'll help you, Amen.
Our God is able.
Have a seat. God can use Dave Ramsey to help us, right? To rescue us.
Yeah.
He uses all kinds of things, right? But we serve a God who's able, and that's really the message this morning, that our God is able. And our God, I've got a question, and he asked what God is able. I had a little thing that I read here this week that was very encouraging to me because it reminded me again of how powerful our God is. And this is actually a speech from Martin Luther King. He says he was talking about men's arrogance and focusing on humanism and it's all in us and so forth. And he talks about the NASA space program as one of the highlights of human achievements. Going to the moon and going around the planet. You got an opinion on that, Christine?
Yeah.
But he says before we're consumed by this human arrogance, let's take a broader look at the universe. Because will we not soon discover that our fastest rockets seem barely to be moving in comparison to the movement of the stars and the planets. Think about the fact, for instance, that the Earth is circling the sun so fast that the fastest jet would be left 66,000 miles behind in the first hour of a space race. Think about this for just a second. In the past 7 minutes, we've been hurled more than 8,000 miles through space.
Wow.
It's kind of like, I didn't get any jerks, but in the past 7 minutes, we've gone 8,000 miles through space.
Wow.
Consider the sun. Our Earth moves around this cosmic ball of fire once each year, we're traveling 584 million miles in our orbit around the sun.
Wow. Cool.
584 million miles. At the rate of 66,700 miles per hour. You didn't know you were so fast, did you? And you guys are speeding along. We all are.
Wow.
But we're going at 66,700 miles per hour through space right now. 6 months from now, we'll be on the other side of the sun.
Yeah.
And a year from now, we'll have swung completely around.
Wow. Cool.
So when men stand up and want to say, look, what Nebuchadnezzar did was he got up in the mornings and looked in the mirror and sang, "How great thou art," in the mirror, right? And that's what a lot of men do. That's what a lot of people do because they really believe it. How great we are as humans. But when you think about God, what our God is able to do, He's able to keep all this working, this whole planetary system, and us on it. And we're not even floating away, and we're not, smashing our heads against the wall because we're going so fast. It's amazing what God can do.
Mm-hmm.
God is amazing. And these guys were serving a God who was able, and they were asked what God is able, and they responded, "Our God is able." But and we'll go on and talk about some rescue here. But sometimes we think, well, I can think of an exception to God rescuing, and I can too. I can think of Abel. God was able, but Abel died in Genesis chapter 3 or chapter 4 because he offered a better sacrifice. Cain slew his own brother. God could have rescued him, right? I mean, he was the right worshiper. That's the guy you want on your team. If you're God, but God was able to rescue him, but God didn't rescue Abel. Of course, you think of Stephen in Acts chapter 7. He was an awesome, vibrant, great preacher, preaching God's word powerfully, so powerfully that the Jews killed him on that day. And God could have rescued him, but God didn't. And the message there is God is able, but sometimes He doesn't. Sometimes He does not rescue. And, obviously, we have a hard time with that. I saw, you got to go home and check this out on YouTube, but I saw on YouTube there's a commercial, a car commercial. I think it might be in Colorado, somewhere up north there, but they've got this trunk monkey. You saw that one? Yeah, the trunk monkey. Anybody seen that? You saw that one? Yeah, you're riding down the road. Actually, you cut off somebody, and they come up and they block you in, and they got you blocked in, and they're yelling at your window and so forth. You've got a little button up here on the headboard. You press the trunk monkey, and you press the button, and the trunk monkey comes out, and he comes around with a tar to him. He beats the guy down, and you get to drive off. Okay, that's how that works. If somebody steals your car, there's a trunk monkey there that. While he's still in the car, he comes out of the trunk through that kind of seat, the seat's going down, he comes through there, and he knocks out the guy. But, that's really not enough punishment because you got to go through all this hassle, the insurance and so forth. So this trunk monkey will actually drive him to the bridge and drop him off the bridge for you. So that's what, look it up on YouTube. It's really funny. The trunk monkey. Look for the trunk monkey. That's kind of how we want God to be for us sometimes, right? We want to hit a rescue button. And God can rescue us whenever we want. Now we want Him at our bid and calling. We don't realize that God's got a bigger plan for us. God's got something that He wants to accomplish. But our mind is, and here's the way we think, if God can, God should.
Yeah.
If God can get me out of this financial mess, He should. He's got the power. That's how we think. And I think a lot of times that gets us in trouble because we get this tension because God is able, we're sure of that because we've seen what He can do, but then we have a problem because He doesn't rescue me right now. And so we have this disconnect with us. And I think the faith that these Hebrew boys had really should be our faith. They say, even if He does not, we know God is able.
Right.
But even if He doesn't, we're going to be faithful.
Amen.
You can burn us, you can do whatever you want to us. We're going to remain faithful to God. Our God is able to save us. And again, what this gets to in terms of our faith is that we so often want to assume that we know God's will in every situation. We're not God, but we assume that we know God's will. It's God's will to rescue me in this situation, that situation. We don't know God's will, but we assume to know. I love what Job says. Remember Job, his family was taken away, all of his wealth, everything. He had boils, all kinds of stuff. Job said in Job 121, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That's an attitude of faith, right? Mm-hmm. The Lord gives, hey, I appreciate when God gives, but the Lord also takes away. It says, blessed be the name of the Lord. I appreciate when God takes away because God is God. He knows what's best. He says also in Job 13:15, though He slay me, yet will I trust Him. Even if God, this is their attitude, even if God kills me in this furnace, I'm going to trust Him. And in fact, they say that, look, if God kills us in the furnace, He's going to still deliver us from your hand. You're not going to have any power over us because we'll be dead, But as a Christian, death is just a promotion to the front office, right?
Amen.
Like that's always a step up. You get more of the top office. And that should be our attitude. You know, when we feel these threats and this intimidation and so forth from people, is the worst you can do is kill me. And if you kill me, you're just threatening me with heaven. I mean, that's what they're threatening with, right? The threat is, you're going to die. Okay, when I die, I go to heaven. All right. Bring it on, right? So, now I know that's difficult, but that really is an attitude of faith. That I believe that this is just a short period of time. I'm going to be here. We're already in eternity, right? There's no exit door. It's like, oh yeah, I'm in eternity, or I'm in this life, but I want the exit door from eternity because I don't want to really go into eternity because I don't want to be separated from God. So I'll just, I'd like to get off that elevator or that speedway. There's no exit door. You're in eternity right now. What you're doing now is deciding where you're going to spend eternity, by who you choose to follow. You're going to bow down to the Nebuchadnezzars and the Satans, or are you going to bow down to God? That's the whole thing that's going on here.
Right.
So, back to chapter 3 of Daniel. Daniel chapter 3, verse 23. Oh, let's see. Let's go on down to verse 19. When